So thank you all for coming to the Arizona Innovation Accelerator Fund webinar. This is our Friday Fundamentals webinar number 7. And thank you for coming. So my name is Philip Blackerby. I've been working with ADOT for a little over 4 years now, specializing in financial management, strategic planning, marketing. I've worked with over 800 entrepreneurs, mostly in the greater Phoenix area, a master's degree from the University of Texas, Hook'em Horns, and a bachelor's degree from Brown University, Go Bruins. With us here, we have Josh Chovnick from the Arizona Commerce Authority. He's the program manager in business development and finance, and he is the manager of the Arizona Innovation Accelerator Fund. Previously, he was with Alliance Bank of Arizona. He has well over educated here. He has an MBA in finance, another MA from the University of Florida, and a bachelor's degree from Loyola University. Loyola, boy, that's a mouthful. And very interestingly, he spent time in Paraguay. I had to look up exactly where Paraguay is, but welcome, Josh. Can you say a few words?
Sure, it's good to be here, and I hope my information today will be helpful to all the small businesses and DBEs that are looking for financing and need some help, to grow their businesses.
Great. And we also have in the room Kent Lane from the ADOT Business Engagement and Compliance Office. Kent, welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Just want to welcome everybody to this, our last webinar, and I hope that everybody gets a lot out of this particular webinar and hopefully some opportunities for you as a small business. I also want to thank Josh for being able to come here and attend and presenting this particular piece for us. So welcome, everyone.
I'm sure most of you know Kent, but he is the head of the DBE Support Services group at BECO, at the Business Engagement and Compliance Office. So thank you, Kent. So Josh is here from the Arizona Commerce Authority, which is Arizona's leading economic developer. This is really the organization that the governor has tasks with being our economic developing agency in Arizona. Their mission is to strengthen the economy. Their strategy is a 3-part strategy: recruit, grow, and create new jobs. We're glad of that. I see the national employment report came out today.
That's right.
And unemployment dropped a little bit to 5.9 nationwide. We'll wait another couple of days, I think, for the Arizona report, but we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely.
They have several teams. They have a business attraction team, a business expansion team, a business creation team, workforce development, and small business services. And I think what comes under what we're going to talk about today comes under the small business services rubric. So,
yeah, we're actually under the finance division, which is not represented here. Small business services would be Kathy Rodriguez division downstairs in our Innovation Forward Center, where anyone is welcome to come in and visit anytime and learn more about how to advance their business.
Good. They are targeting certain industries: science and technology, renewable energy and sustainability, manufacturing, aerospace and defense, semiconductors, optics, bioscience. Those are really the targets for the future growth of Arizona. They have a variety of grants and tax incentives, credits, bonds, and loans. They're very active, and we can see here they have several major programs, several of which I've participated in. I just went through the P3 playbook because I have a client that's going to apply for an SBIR grant, so participated in that. That client got an AZ FAST grant, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The Innovation Challenge was just announced last week or earlier this week.
That's twice a year.
Twice a year, and I understand it's up to $200,000 in grants to technology ventures.
Yeah, each one. So, and there are typically 6 winners twice a year.
6 $200,000 grants twice a year.
That's right.
That's great. RevAZ is the Manufacturing Extension Partnership supported by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. I actually used to work for that.
That's right. And we're just finishing the manufacturing month. We just finished it a few days ago.
Good.
So they've been very active. And I'd like to just add, these are just a handful of the programs. We have other ones, and these are the ones I thought best suited to the audience today.
Good. State trade and export promotion, job training grants. That's real interesting. You can get a reimbursement grant for training your employees. There are some requirements, but it's a fairly simple application process. And Small Business Services Online Resource Center. This is a website that ACA manages that provides all kinds of information about how to do business in Arizona, how to set up your licenses and permits and corporate entity and training and all that sort of thing. So It's a really great resource, and I would urge anybody to take a look at it.
Yeah, I'd add that they have what's called the checklist program online, and you can go there and go through that and see everything that you would need to start a business or advance a business in Arizona.
So we're here today to talk about the Arizona Innovation Accelerator Fund. And Josh, why don't you give us the highlights here?
Yeah, sure. So I can first start by saying where the money came from. So back in 2010, as part of the first Jobs Act, the State Small Business Credit Initiative was founded, or the SSBCI. And at that time, $1.5 billion in funding was distributed among the 50 states. And of that, Arizona received just over $18 million. And with that, we put together the Arizona Innovation Accelerator Fund, or the AIAF fund. We refer to it oftentimes as just the Accelerator Fund. And that's to accelerate, small businesses in Arizona that are looking to grow and expand and create jobs. And one of our primary requirements is basically that we have at least 50% of the financing coming from the private sector, and then we can potentially provide the other half. Now, that's typically done in loans with banks where we participate and purchase 50% of the loan from the bank. Our participations will range anywhere from $50,000 to $2 million. And so that would mean, basically, if we're in for 50%, the smallest loan size that we would be a part of would be $100,000. And that could be, a term loan or a revolving line of credit. Oftentimes we see a pretty big need in this state for small businesses looking for small lines of credit of $100,000 to $200,000. So that's been very useful to a lot of companies. Now, we also can provide subordinate financing, and that's where we become very helpful to banks, because that's what they consider a collateral enhancement, similar to an SBA loan, where we basically can take a second position on any collateral that's being used to secure the loan. Thereby, they only have risk exposure on 50%, and on the other half, we're taking the risk exposure for the business that's going to expand. And that we're doing that because our companies that we finance are always creating jobs, and typically they'll be expanding and growing as well in terms of the capital expenditure. So another way we help, and this helps the borrower as well as the bank, is we can provide a potential grace period. So what that means is we can defer payments of P&I, or principal and interest, on the loan for up to 2 years. That's according to our guidelines. Now, in practice, this is more oftentimes seen as, say, 6 months to a year of interest only, thereby giving the business the room to grow and to reach its objectives. Okay. Now, the last way that we like to actually help the business itself is to offer an interest rate reduction for every new job that's created, and this incentivizes the business to create the jobs, and that would be up to 2.5% that they could reduce the initial interest rate by, and we would look at that, say, 1 year into the loan, and for every job created, it's a little technical, but we would take 0.05% per job. And so with 50 jobs created, that would give them the maximum interest rate reduction of 2.5%. And we've done that for a number of companies already. They basically send in their list of employees that they've created, and we go through it, and it has to meet certain requirements for what we call a quality job. That means it pays the median county wage and offers at least 65% of health care coverage for the employee. And we would then, going forward in the loan for the rest of the period until maturity, they would have reduced it by 2.5%.
Interesting. So, general loan terms, maturities typically inside of 5 years, so these are relatively shorter than most SBA loans, which typically run 7 years on a 7A SBA loan. So 5 years, though, is pretty good. Commitment and annual fees of 1 to 3% of the participation amount or loan balance. So you pay that up front?
Yeah, so let me just backtrack a little. So we're inside the 5 years, but you ask, well, how do we do, say, a real estate loan that gets amortized or payments are over, say, 25 years? And the way we do that is we're there just to help the company get over the hump. And the idea is that we're in for 5 years, but this loan doesn't need to be fully amortized, or the payments don't have to fully amortize over 5 years, but rather they can amortize over 10, 20 years, and there's basically just a balloon payment on our portion at the end. And the idea is that the bank at that point will come in and refinance and take over the whole loan themselves. And so we're basically there to help companies, that would not otherwise be able to get the loan. And our fees, according to guidelines, they're 1 to 3%. But typically, what I've seen is they're in the 1% ballpark at the onset, and we most often do not have annual fees. So
it's possible to have these fees, but typically 1% up front, no annual fee. That's your typical deal.
Yeah, and another thing that's not on here that we like to stress is we don't have prepayment penalties.
Oh, good.
So, unlike some other types of programs, we're kind of incentivizing them and the bank as well to take us out as soon as it's possible. Now, the next 2 points, basically, it's a little technical there.
Yeah, I had to look up pari passu. That means that basically you've got 2 loans, a bank loan and the accelerator fund loan. And if they are pari passu, that means that they are at the same level. One is not subordinate to the other.
Yeah, this is basically what I was addressing earlier. This is, to a bank, this is the main way they see our program as helpful, is if they would have to take 100% exposure, with us coming in for 50%, being what's called subordinated, that means we're taking a second on any collateral they have securing the loan. And that allows them to give you an example, you're probably familiar with real estate, because everybody purchases homes, and so there's typically a maximum loan to value. And banks oftentimes, at least with the commercial, is oftentimes around 70% or so, and then with us coming in, we might take that up to, say, 85, 90%, as you would see with an SBA 504 type structure. And so we're taking a second on the collateral.
Like a second mortgage. So if there's any kind of default, the bank would get first bite at the collateral. If there's anything left over, then it goes to you.
That's right. The bank gets made whole first, and then now we don't have to be subordinated. There are deals, and we'll look at a number of deals later, but there are some deals where if we're not needed to be subordinated, we can come in and take equal priority, and then we have the opportunity to be quite a bit cheaper than the bank on our interest rate.
Right.
Okay. Now, when we are subordinated, since the taxpayer is incurring some risk exposure there, our guidelines stipulate that we need to be 1 to 3% above. And so it's typically a few percentage points above, and that's very reasonable if you look at market rates for subordinated type debt.
So in today's environment, what do you see as a typical bank's rate?
It depends on the type of loan, but say and also the company and where they're at in terms of their financials. But if I oftentimes see, 5%, and if we're subordinated, we may be a few percentage points above. But you have to bear in mind that we're only in for as much as needed. So we're not always 50%. We may be, if we're only needed in for 20% so that the company can get the loan, then we're only in for, say, 20%. And so the actual blended cost of capital or rate of interest is not going to be as much as you would think, because the bank is always oftentimes in for the largest percentage of the lion's share of the deal.
Still, 5 to 8% is pretty cheap.
That's right. And we do partner with non-banks as well. And we'll see that on another slide here later. But we partner with community development financial institutions.
There we go.
And credit unions, we could theoretically, we don't have any in our portfolio yet, but we do have there a CDFI, which is what I was talking about, a community development financial institution. The one here in town is multi-bank. The IDAs, we have a deal where we partnered with PCDIC, or Phoenix Community Development Industrial Corporation. We partnered with Business Development Finance Corporation, which is a CDC, or which primarily does SBA loans. So we can partner with any number of different lenders or private capital. And on this slide here, what we show is our two main paths. And for most of you today, the most relevant one is probably the traditional lending path. And that's where a traditional lender originates the loan, because the Arizona Commerce Authority is obviously not a bank. So we don't originate or service loans. What we do is we have an agreement with the bank where we take a participation in their loan, and up to 50% in the traditional path, and then they service that, and they work with the borrower, and payments come into them, etc. Now, the other non-traditional path is if a company is more of an early stage company, and they're not in a position to even be able to secure a loan from a bank where we're subordinated, they may have some investors coming in, say angel investors, private equity, VC. Some of that can even be the owner themselves putting money into the business.
We'll see that in the case studies later.
That's right. That's right. So in those cases, we satisfy our matching requirement, our private sector matching requirement from the investors coming in, and then we still run it through a bank. They service it, they set it up for us, but in those cases, we basically purchase the entire note from them, take the entire participation, and they act as a pass-through on our behalf. And when we report to the Treasury, because that's who we report to on the use of these funds, as part of the JPCI requirement for matching private sector funding, we report that our matching is coming from equity investors. So those are the two paths.
Okay. We have a couple of questions, and I will get to those in a minute. So this is the timeline of the program. So this has actually been around for a while. November 2011 is when you actually started. I got the first $6 million from the federal government. Is that right?
That's right. So it comes from the Treasury, and it comes in 3 tranches of 3 disbursements of $6 million each, more or less. And we're actually just about to request our third tranche. You need to meet certain requirements for each one, and as you'll see from this slide, we've used just over half of the funding, and now we've met the requirements to draw down on the last tranche. And so we've had quite a bit of success with the program. In July of 2012, we closed $1 million of AIF funds deployed, and at that time we had recorded the projected creation of 73 jobs, full-time employees. September 2013, we received the second tranche, and as I said, we're now in October. We've got actually 30-plus deals, and we're in the process of requesting our third tranche. We recorded companies projecting to create over 1,000 full-time employees, and then there are also a lot of part-time employees that we also report to the Treasury. So the Treasury has us down for about At the end of 2013, they had us down for the creation of 1,600 jobs.
Cool. So one of the questions we had is, when we count these jobs, do they all have to be like W-2 employees, or do 1099 contractors count as well?
We basically count all those. We have an intake form. It's sort of like an application. The difference is that it doesn't start what's called Reg D, and so we don't need to, approve or deny it within a very short period of time. We can keep that relationship open, and when the company is ready, we can be available to help them get financing. It sometimes has been even, 6 months or a year later that we've been able to close loans for them. But on that form, you basically send in to us, and you project how many jobs you believe, if things go well and everything goes as planned, that you create over 3 years, and what the average salary of those jobs would be. It could be, an hourly salary that we convert into an annual salary, but they just need to be considered full-time.
Okay. So it doesn't really matter if they're payroll or contractor, as long as they're full-time, that's what counts.
Yeah, that's correct.
There you go. Okay, good. Thanks. All right. So current status, you got about 20 deals in the pipeline, so we've closed about 30, and we got another 20 in the pipeline, so that's a lot of workload.
Yeah, that's right. We always have at least 20 or so, and deals are coming in every day. We get calls from new clients every day. I encourage anyone who's interested, to give me a call, and we can talk about your particular situation. And we also oftentimes get calls from the banks. They're looking for help with particular loans. So if any of you are working with banks, oftentimes you can have your banker call and talk to us, and we can give them a little education on our program and how we can be helpful. And we are working with, now we just added 2 new lending relationships, so we're up to 10 different partners that we're working with, and we keep reaching out to new ones every day. There are, of those 20 deals in the pipeline, there are a whole bunch with new banks that we haven't closed yet, but we're looking to add at least another, say, 5 or 6 new relationships with new banks this fiscal year. And we're also expanding into some of our rural areas. We're looking to do potentially a loan in Flagstaff, and we do have loans in Tucson as well. That's not rural, but we have one in Cottonwood, Arizona, which is rural. And so we're always looking to expand those.
Good. Now, earlier we mentioned CDFIs as one of the lender partners that you could have in this program, and I know one of the CDFIs is with the Chicanos por la Causa. Their program is called Préstamos. Is that one of your partners?
Not yet, but we have been in discussions with them just recently, actually.
Good. So, good. Because we had Teresa Miranda on one of our panels last November when we had the financial services workshop. So that's great.
Yeah, we hope to bring on as many partners as possible. So.
Okay. Good. So we've got 5 different case studies to talk about. 2 of them are in the professional services areas, Green Ideas and Tricom Corp. 3 of them are construction-related companies, Carlson Glass, iFrame Building Solutions, and JPCI Services. So we're going to kind of slog through these 5 case studies here. And we had a question from Frank Bashort. So does your organization lend to commercial construction contractors? If you do, is your qualifying criteria the same as a bank, i.e. financial statements, tax returns, etc.? Now, from what I understand, that you always work in partnership with some other lender, typically a bank, but could be other kinds of lenders as well.
Right.
But those lenders are going to require all of that documentation, right? So tax returns, business plans, names of all the 20% owners, and
personal financial statements,
personal financial projections, and all that.
Yeah, and typically there are 2 paths. Usually a company will either come to us and we'll refer them to a bank, or vice versa. The bank will come to us, and when we refer it to the bank, we just basically ask for some basic financials so that we can send them something meaningful. As
well, I think one of the things we're going to see here is that there are companies that don't necessarily meet all those bank guidelines that can still participate in your program, which eases the burden on the banks, makes the banks more willing to participate.
Yeah.
So you can, some of these companies have some serious challenges, and you sort of went in and overcame those challenges for them.
That's right.
And I think that's an important point to remember. So let's take a look. First one is Green Ideas. This is a consulting firm. They consult on energy efficient and environmentally responsible buildings. You see the one at the top there is on the Flagstaff campus of Northern Arizona University. That's their applied research building. It's a LEED Platinum building. The next one is also a LEED Platinum building. That's the library in White Tank, right? Right. And then there's a Walgreens drugstore, which I didn't know. I think that's a gold building, as I recall.
That's right.
Now, they had some challenge, which was, as it says, historical financial noise. Yeah, I know what that sounds like.
Yeah, we're being kind of politically correct here, but oftentimes the challenge is that also that with, say, a consulting business, for example, they might not have a lot of collateral for a loan. They might not own their building. They might lease space. And, you know, banks typically like to use the building as collateral and do a lot of real estate loans, in Phoenix particularly. And other than that, they're looking at some, you know, heavy equipment and very hard assets. And in this case, you're talking about a consulting company, research space, and they're actually housed in the Gateway Community College's incubator, CEI.
Okay.
And so we
down on 40th and Van Buren?
I believe so. And we've funded a number of companies in that incubator, and have a call from a gentleman that heard from Green Ideas how much he liked the program, and now he called us and he wants to do the same thing. And so in this case, this would be difficult for a bank to do because the bank always typically requires 8 quarters or 2 years of positive historical cash flow, etc. And when we look at a deal, we might look at 3 months, 6 months, or less. We sometimes even look at projections of on startup companies of cash flow that, you know, is basically just a projection at this point, or a pro forma. So in this case, it was a fairly small facility, 100,000. So in those cases,
that's a revolving line of credit?
That's right, a revolving line of credit, which basically means that he can draw funds on that and then pay it down, and it would be interest only for whatever is drawn at the time. Whereas a term loan, obviously, the full thing is drawn, and they're, what I was talking about earlier, amortized payments over a specific period, say 5 or 10 years. In this case, he only pays interest on what he's using currently, like you would for a credit card, say. But obviously, the rate is going to be much lower, hopefully.
Typically, line of credit rates are in the 10 to 12 range.
They're less than that. They're less than that from what I've seen. When the maximum percentage interest rate I've seen on our participation was something south of 10%. So, and that's when we were subordinated to a non-bank. And some of the non-banks will get up to maybe 8.5% or so, and that's on the high end. The banks typically, if they're going to look at a deal, it's a little more solid, and it's more in the 5-6% range. Now, on the line of credit, this is most often used when a business is looking to expand and they need some working capital to do so. Oftentimes that includes hiring people, maybe some marketing costs. That's hard for a bank because the bank likes to see if you're going to buy some equipment, then they can use that same equipment as collateral. But if you're going to hire some people, maybe you just need some working capital, there's nothing tangible for them to use to secure it. So we see a big need for these small lines of credit with young companies in Arizona. Now, on this particular deal, the results for us were that 12 full-time employees are projected to be created. These are always projections over 3 years, so we don't know as of yet if all these have, will or have been created. But we check in every year with the owners, and what we do is we do a quick calculation in terms of how much we invested and divide that by the number of jobs that are projected to be created, and then we see what basically the return on investment is for the taxpayer for that investment. And in this case, it was just $4,000 per job, which is very low. We average somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000 per job, and we typically compare that to the salaries of those jobs just in, say, the first year. And if those salaries are, say, $30,000, and we're only investing $4,000 in this case, or $10,000 per job, then that's a really good deal in our opinion.
And so in this case, $65,000 salary at a cost of $4,000 per job. Yeah, that's a really good deal.
Yeah, just in the first year too. I mean, because those salaries go on for a number of years.
Okay, so we also see that it's 2.2 times SSBCI leverage. Now, SSBCI, I looked that up. That's the law that authorized this program, the federal law that authorized this program to begin with. Can you explain to us then what the 2.2 times leverage means?
Yeah, basically what the SSBCI or Treasury likes to see on these deals is they like to see how much other private sector capital went into a deal compared to the public sector investment. And in this case, you add the, we're in for 50%, so it's just around 2 times because you take the whole deal and you say 100,000 and divide it by our investment, and that's the leverage. Now, oftentimes, this is a sort of a simple example, but oftentimes in deals where you have real estate, you have the owner putting some cash into the deal, some investment. You also have cases where we have multiple banking or lending partners putting money in, and then like I was talking about earlier, oftentimes we're only needed for a small piece of the deal. So we'll see an example here later where the leverage is a lot higher than that. So this would be one of our lower leverage deals.
Okay. So look at the next one, Tricom Corporation. Now this is a real interesting company. They make cell towers that look like palm trees or look like cactuses. I think that's real exciting work.
It's pretty neat. And I'm sure everyone has seen those around. So this was actually our first deal, so we're very proud of this one. And we got a story out of this one with the Treasury, featured in one of their quarterly reports that goes out to the entire nation. So on this one, we were quite proud of the structure. It involved a lot of moving pieces. There was an SBA loan in there as well. And one important thing to note is we're not allowed to take part in the actual SBA loan itself because those are public dollars as well. So if we were to take part in that, then there would be no there could potentially be no private sector risk. And so what we were able to structure was a financing package in which there are a number of different loans. And there was a SBA 7A term loan, and that the bank did through the SBA, and then they did another separate line of credit with us, and that was difficult for them because the SBA loan had sort of used most of the hard assets as collateral on that term loan, and so then they were looking at just what are called the receivables, and that's oftentimes what's used to secure a line of credit are the receivables. And that's a fluctuating asset, obviously, on the balance sheet. And so what we do typically there is the bank will oftentimes advance only a certain percentage of those receivables, and that's oftentimes 70%. And then we'll come into the deal, subordinated, as we were in this case. We're taking a second, and we can get that advance rate up to, say, 80, 85%, so that the company has access to more money at any given time. Now, in this deal, we were basically increasing the size of that existing revolving line of credit, so that they could grow and expand, and we could bridge the timing gap in the AR, or we refer to the accounts receivable as the AR, and I'm sure all of you with your businesses know what that is, and some of you also probably struggle with that timing gap between the time when you actually get paid for the work you've done. And so that's a big need in terms of working capital and timing. And on this deal as well, a lot of companies that we work with had some poor performance historically back in 2009, 2010. We understand that because of the recession and the challenges. Oftentimes, though, a bank struggles with the fact that they need to get a pass-grade credit from their regulators, and that's oftentimes basically just checking the boxes. And even though they understand and they want to make a loan, they can't do it because the regulators wouldn't allow them to. But with us coming into the deal, it makes it possible. So on this one, the results were quite a bit better leverage, 4 times, and that's because we included all the other financing going in, the borrower putting money in, the SBA putting money in, etc.
And so you got the $750,000 line of credit, the $350,000 SBA loan, so that's what, $1,100,000. So you divide the $250,000 that AIAF put in into the $1.1 million, and that's what gets you your 4.2.
That's correct.
But you said there was also some, the math doesn't work there, so there was always also some owner capital put into it.
I think you're correct on your calculations. There must not be some owner capital in this one. So and we got 74 jobs projected on this one, and I've been in touch with the owner. I mean, he's been doing really well. He actually, we had this number 74. This started out when we first made the loan. I believe it was in the 40s, but he actually ended up creating more than he had projected, and he was eligible for, on that other slide, you saw some of our other grants, he was eligible for a job training grant, so I was in touch with him and helped him. We often try to help the borrowers or the clients to work through some of our other programs as well and identify where they might be eligible for some grants that they don't have to pay back. And in this case, the job training grant was something he was eligible for, and we were able to up our numbers, and our cost per job went down to close to $4,000 per job with $40,000 average salary. And there have been a number of follow-on financing deals for this client. So we made the initial loan for $250, and then there was another $100, of which we put in $33, and then another $500. On that one, I believe we put in $167,000 in November 2000.
Pretty much maintaining that 1/3, 2/3 relationship
Exactly.
between AIF and the bank. So
that's exactly what we did.
So this is a company that really was a bit troubled when they came to you, and now they're doing much, much better as a result. Probably saved jobs as well as create new ones.
That's right. Saved jobs only initially made the loan, and now created a lot of new jobs. And then on this one, I'll add that a lot of times the struggle for banks that we see is, and you might be aware of this as well if you've dealt with banks, is that there will be a concentration with a particular customer or a particular few customers, and they may be big customers as well. They could be Honeywell, GE, and we find that as to be a strength, but the bank looks at that as to be a risk that maybe one of these won't pay them or something. And so in this case, that was there was a big customer. It was Bechtel in this case, and so that was a struggle.
Yeah, as a business consultant, I always tell clients, look at what percentage of your business is generated by your top 4 customers. And if that's more than 50%, you need to really start diversifying and getting more customers, right, so that you don't have such a high concentration. So that's a good tip for everybody, I think. Right. Look at those top 4 customers. What percentage of your business do they represent? If it's more than 50, then we need to talk about marketing.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
We try to look at some of those things as strengths, since we're the ones that are trying to help business and we expand and whatnot. And we see that if they have some good relationship with some big customers, that we like to give them the benefit of the doubt, and we think that that's a worthwhile investment for the taxpayer and for the Commerce Authority.
Good. Okay, let's look at the next one. Carlson Glass, a Phoenix glass contractor. Now, they have also had some challenges here.
Right. Now, this one, as you can see from the picture, they do a lot of the custom glass, and you may or may not recognize that restaurant down there. I haven't been there yet myself, but
Hop Daddy?
Hop Daddy, I guess
Hop Daddy?
it's somewhere on Scottsdale Road. But in this case, they wanted to purchase a new building, make tenant improvements, and of course support expansion. We're always part of deals that there'll always be some sort of expansion or some job creation there. And when you're purchasing a new building, you're obviously going to put some new people in it too and expand. And in this case, it was like the example we talked about earlier, where there's a loan-to-value issue, where an appraisal comes in and the loan is too large for the bank based on the appraisal of the building. So this would require the customer to come out of pocket for that shortfall. And sometimes that's possible, sometimes it's not. Oftentimes when we come in, they do still come in for a bit, but a lot less than they would have to immediately. And so it makes it possible for them to continue to do the loan as planned, and lowering the bank's what's called LTV, or loan to value, on it. Now in this case as well, there was a credit score issue, and that's something that obviously is a red flag for banks. So we look at a lot of times, it is a loan program, so it's not a grant, so we do look at the cash flow of the business. We want to make sure that the business is able to make the payments on the loan. But we might see that the credit score is related to some past historical issues, and we believe going forward they're not going to have these issues. A lot of times, as I mentioned, those are related to when the economy wasn't doing as well. So we look at the current debt, what's called the debt service coverage, or how much debt compared to the amount of cash flow they have, and we see that we don't foresee any problem making those payments, and so we're able to come in and take a subordinated position, as we did in this one. The borrower came out of pocket for $90,000, so that's a pretty big chunk, but you can imagine if we weren't in the deal, they might not have been able to afford the amount they would have had to come out of pocket. We came in for basically here is an example of a smaller percentage. So we didn't do the full 50%. We just did what was needed for the bank to get that loan done. Because obviously the bank, if they could, they'd just do the whole loan themselves. But they can't, so they get us in for the minimum cost. And on this one, we had 12 jobs projected to be created with average salaries of $45,000. And so that was just over $17,000 per job. Again, compare that to the $45,000 average salary, and we really like those numbers.
Right, and I want to emphasize, I mean, it's $17,000 per job, but that's not really an expense. That's an investment.
Right.
And you're going to get that money back when the company repays the loan.
That's right.
Plus interest.
That's correct.
So that's not an expenditure of public funds. It's really just a loan that's an investment.
That's right.
That's how much you put up, $17,000 for a $45,000 job. Not quite a 3-to-1 ratio, but of course that job, that's $45,000 every year, so that starts to generate some significant tax returns.
That's correct.
As those people who earn those average salaries pay income taxes and sales taxes and whatnot back to the state.
Right, and then there's always some indirect jobs that we don't count here either, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, we don't count that's 45 for that job just the first year, and then we would imagine they're going to go on and maybe even get some raises, and we're getting paid back. Knock on wood.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a look at the next one. iFrame Building Solutions. Now, these guys really are not exactly construction. They are technically manufacturers of wall panels, but they install them, so they really do support. Looks like the lower picture there, like big warehouse buildings, they put up those wall panels and whatnot.
Yeah, they're in the, I recall they were in the Banner hospital, so a lot of times it's wall paneling that's very energy efficient, and also if there's an issue with, say, like in a hospital where you don't want germs to pass through very easily, then this is the type of wall panel material that those types of institutions like to put in. And so the issue here mainly was that, again, they didn't have a lot of hard assets. They didn't own their building. They didn't have a lot of excess machinery with a lot of excess value. And they were, when I say minimal historic cash flow, I mean, for a bank, that's anything less than 2 years. So, I mean, you could be making really good money in the past year, and the bank might not look at you just because not long enough history. And oftentimes we see cases where the bank will just sit on the deal and wait, and the borrower, meanwhile, needs money, right? And sometimes in the bank's best interest is to wait and see what happens. And when we can get in there, sometimes we can get things done quickly. And we kind of pride ourselves on that as being very quick and, you know, never being the one that the borrower's waiting on. You know, if the bank takes some time and they're underwriting, that's fine. But as soon as they're done and they're approved, you know, we try to take care of our piece of it in a week or two, get approved and get that money out. And so on this deal, I like this one a lot because this is one of the examples where we actually helped this company and the loan was already paid back. They actually paid this one back early, and the way we did this was since there was no collateral at all, the borrower came out of pocket with a small pledged CD that he put on deposit at the bank, and that basically secured the bank portion since we were subordinated. Sometimes even with us being subordinated, there might not be enough for that other 50% for the bank. But if they're able to put in, say, some cash, it's going to be a lot less than they would have to put in. And when they do that, as long as we have enough private sector capital at risk to meet Treasury's requirements, then we're okay and we can proceed with the deal. And I will say that we also have a small committee at the Arizona Commerce Authority, so it's not just me here myself approving the deals, but we have a loan committee and we have a process, and we take it to a number of different people who sign off on the deal. And we always, of course, look at first and foremost the economic development merits of the deal, and secondly at the credit, and of course how the taxpayer gets made whole in the case of the default.
So in this case, the real issue was the collateral shortfall. And I just wanted to remind the audience out there that if you are in the city of Phoenix, then you can also help solve that collateral shortfall through the City of Phoenix Expand program, where they can match your collateral, basically double your collateral for you, and they do it in a similar way. They post a CD at the bank, and they don't expect that they're going to lose that CD, of course.
That's right.
But
we actually, it's interesting you mentioned that, because we're working on a deal right now that involves just what you mentioned. It involves we're in for 50%, I believe. The other half, or something south of that, potentially, maybe it's 30%. But the bank's portion, in addition to having us collaterally enhance the deal, they also have the City of Phoenix's Expand program in for $50,000, just as you mentioned, on their half of the deal. So there can be a number of different partners. And once again, as long as we have sufficient private capital at risk to meet Treasury requirements, we're okay to move forward on that deal. And that's not stipulated here. It gets a little confusing, but because we're typically 50% match, but at the end of the day, there has to be 20% of private capital at risk. And that has to be something other than an owner other than, say, us or the city of Phoenix or
It
anyone.
has to be a third-party lender of some kind.
Yes, or a third-party
Investor, right. Okay. So in this case, 25 new jobs for an investment of $2,000 per job. Really, really strong. $40,000 annual average salaries.
Yeah, and I guess I'll add that we have certain targeted pillar industries that were on a previous slide: advanced manufacturing, technology, innovation, etc.
Biotech.
Biotech, right. And I know that a lot of companies see that and they assume that they can't get a loan because they're not in one of those sectors, and that's just not the case. And I hope the audience sees this through these different examples, because we basically have a commitment with our loan program to do about 50% of our deals in those sectors. But the other 50% have been all kinds of industries. I mean, we even have hair salons and car washes, etc. So as long as there's some element of job creation going on there, and the salaries don't have to be necessarily as high as this either. We look at all the factors and we try to be helpful.
Well, $40,000 average salary is $20 an hour, basically. So you're not talking about,
right,
executive jobs here. These are
right.
$2 jobs can easily pay that kind of money.
Yeah, and we compare it to the median salary wherever the deal is located. In Phoenix, that's about $35,000, $36,000. So,
okay, that's good. And I think the last one here is Joseph Painting Company, Inc., also known as JPCI Services. Now, some people think, well, it's just a painter, but no, these guys are real specialists focusing on water and wastewater treatment plants, which require really specific coatings and a lot of specialty techniques and technology to get those coatings to stick. So this is an interesting company, I think, in the construction field.
That's right. And this one was our first deal with the Business Development Finance Corporation, and they are what's called a CDC, so they primarily do SBA 504 loans, and they saw an opportunity here where there are a number of loans in their portfolio and their pipeline that don't meet the SBA requirements, and they're not able to proceed. And so we basically structured a deal that was very similar to what they would have had with the SBA. In this case, they do primarily real estate loans, as is the case here, and it's a loan-to-value issue where the lead lender will only go up to 75%, and then Business Development Finance Corporation comes in and they take it to 90% financing. Okay, and what happened is they basically shared. They had a subordinated position to another lead lender or senior lender, and they basically shared that with us because that's not their bread and butter. So they don't want to have a large portion of their funding in those type of deals that are outside the SBA program. And so we partnered with them to do similar structures, but to split them with them, as we did in this case. And so it's a little technical down here in the details. Or again, the Latin word pari passu, or as some people say, pari passu. But we're
so
some of our
I have this Community Development Corporation, which is also called the CDC, and so they put up most of the money, a little bit from AIAF, so about a little less than $80,000.
Well, I guess
$75,000.
I guess it's a little confusing here, but what happened is there's a senior lender, and it's not in here, but we probably didn't want to put the name on there, but it's National Bank of Arizona was a senior lender. They did 75% loan to value there. They could do 75% of it. There's another 15% to take this loan to value up to 90% of the appraised value is what the deal was going to be. And so the Business Development Finance Corporation only did that small 15%, and we split that with them.
Okay. So you're in for 8 or 7.5. They're in for 7.5. And the bank is in for 75% on an $800,000 loan. And then in addition to that, there's another $150,000 revolving line of credit that the bank put together.
Right. That's correct.
So you really have 4 different parties involved here, AIAF, 3 different parties.
Yeah, 3.
AIAF, the bank, the CDC, and you have really kind of 3 different loans. You have the AIAF, you have the CDC, you have, and 2 bank loans. So there's actually 4 loans involved in this.
That's right. We have, basically you have a senior lender and you have 2 junior subordinated lenders. And so when we say we're pari passu, we have equal collateral, that's basically, we have equal collateral with the junior lender who's subordinated already. So, so in effect, we're both collateral enhancements to National Bank of Arizona. And now the only way they would typically do that deal is they would use the SBA and go to 90%. And I can't recall on this one why that wasn't able to be possible, but there are a number of issues that the SBA will not move forward with. If there was a former bankruptcy, a number of different issues with dealing with real estate and how the building might get leased once it's purchased, etc. And a lot of those times we don't have those same stipulations in our program.
Well, one of the goals here was to refinance and consolidate that debt. And I know that one of the requirements of SBA loans is that certain refinance, if they really aren't a benefit to the business, aren't necessarily eligible for SBA financing. So there's a little exception in there regarding some refinance on SBA, and that may be what they were trying to get past here, involving these additional parties.
Yeah, and in these cases, obviously the idea is that we're going to refinance and hopefully save the company some money, get them a better rate than they had before, or else they probably wouldn't be refinancing to begin with. Now, one thing we are not able to do is if a bank, we're not able to partner with a bank to refinance one of their existing loans that are not coming mature anytime soon, because that obviously there could be some abuse of that program if a bank were just reducing its exposure on its existing portfolio. But in this case, we're able to come in. We've done a lot of deals where companies may have had credit card debt that needed to be consolidated into a bank loan at a much better rate, real estate consolidated at a much better rate, etc. And as we mentioned earlier, even though we're only in for 5 years, oftentimes that loan to value, we look at in 5 years what it'll be, and we see that in 5 years it's going to be able to be refinanced entirely by the bank. And so that's how we make the agreement.
Right, because the value goes up. The loan actually goes down as you pay it off.
Yeah.
And so those lines cross at some point, and you get a better loan to value.
That's right.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I want to remind everybody about the Financial Services Handbook, which is a free download in English and Spanish. It addresses a lot of these financing issues, particularly all the SBA loan programs that there are. It talks about insurance as well, liabilities, errors and omissions, workers' comp, health, all those kinds of insurance. And bonding, I know that bonding can be a real barrier, and there is some help with bonding. So download this. It's just a PDF. There's that long URL there, but if you go to bit.ly/FinServices with a capital F and a capital S, you will get the same book. So take a look at that. And what's next? We'll have an evaluation survey coming up. You should get that email later today directing you to our survey. We want to get your feedback on this program. We had great attendance and really want to learn what you thought about this program. We are recording this program. We'll have a video posted soon. Again, bit.ly Blackerby TV initially, and then at some point it'll be also on the ADOT website. We do want to remind everybody the DBE Expo coming up November 5th at the Renaissance Glendale Hotel and Spa.
That's correct. And it's the 2014 DB and Small Transportation Expo. So we're welcoming all businesses to attend this particular event. And this is where DBEs and small businesses have the opportunity to market what you do as a business. And we're inviting quite a few different entities coming to this particular event to highlight their projects. But also we are working in collaboration with the City of Phoenix, Valley Metro, and Sky Harbor. So we have all these other government entities that are collaborating with us as well too.
A lot of people looking for DBEs.
Well, a lot of people looking for DBEs, particularly when we're getting ready to embark on this South Mountain project that's coming up real soon. And we're going to be highlighting that at the expo. So I encourage everyone to attend this expo.
That's the extension of the 202 in the Southeast Valley. Been a very controversial project in the works for many, many years, and now they're finally going to launch.
We're going to be moving very soon, very quickly.
Good. And then there's the business development program. Can you give us some highlights of that?
The business development program really is a three-tiered type of program to help small businesses to increase your competitiveness on federal aid projects. If you are interested in this program, please contact me, and we'll see what we can do and get you the application and the business assessment.
Okay, great. I want to thank Josh Chovnick for being with us today and for all that expertise about the AIAF program. And thank you, Kent Lane, for bringing us together. This is a great intergovernmental cooperation effort between ADOT and the Arizona Commerce Authority. So we really appreciate having both of you here. And I want to thank all the people who participated today. And if you have questions, you can email them to me, and we will do our best to get some answers back to you. So watch out for the evaluation survey. You'll get an email later today and some reminders later. So I hope you'll have a wonderful day, and we'll thank you for participating.
Thank you. Thanks.